watched my life die before my eyes and you did nothing. You pitied me, then blamed me. Now watch me. You all judge me and call me a witch without thinking. Watch me as I take you out one by one.
For 20 years, they called her a witch. They said she killed her husband. They blamed her for every missing person in the village. But is she a witch? Let's find out. Long ago in the village of Isioma, they say if you walk past Udene Hill at midnight, you'll hear a woman softly weeping in the wind. But don't look back, those who dare, never return. And everyone in the village accused one woman, her name is Anuli, but the villagers call her something else, the Black Widow of Udene Hill. She dresses in black from head to toe, never seen in daylight. Her house, hidden behind wild grasses and near the hill, stands on the far edge of the village where the fog never lifts, not even at noon. They say she came to Isioma over 20 years ago, with a rich husband named Okeke. When they arrived in Isioma village, Ukik, her husband, built her a beautiful mansion, using stones from rocks carved out of the sacred Udene Hill. They were the only ones in the village who had a beautiful house like that. They kept to themselves, but they were respected. Ukik loves his wife so much that the other women in the village get jealous of her. They have been married for 2 years, but God has not blessed them with a child yet, but that didn't bother Okeke at all. He still loves his wife, until one night, it was stormy and raining. Okeke heard a loud noise and came out to check. But he vanished without a trace. No one found a body. No one heard a scream. Only Anuli was seen the next morning, eyes red from crying, sitting on her front door with her husband's wedding ring in one hand and a shovel in the other. Some villagers passed and asked what could make her cry so early in the morning. She told them her husband went out last night but he never returned. The news spread quickly. The whole village heard, but no one cared to look for Anuli's husband. The villagers pitied her at first. "Oh, poor woman," they said. "So young, already a widow." But something was strange. Anuli never asked for help, she never called the elders, she never reported him missing. She just stayed silent. As months passed, children whispered about shadows behind her windows. Even when she wasn't home, others claimed her wall whisper back if you leaned too close. But the strangest part, every month, during the third moon, a young man in the village would fall ill suddenly and without warning. They would dream of a woman in black, standing by their bed, calling their name in a soft, smoky voice. The illness would fade after 3 days. But the dream, it stayed. It would keep tormenting them, until one day a family from the city moved into Isioma. With them came Chuka, a bold university boy who didn't believe in village superstitions. On his first night, Chuka took a walk, alone, towards Udene Hill. He returned home pale and shaking. He said he saw someone in the woods. Watching him, a tall woman, he whispered, with long hair and silver bangles. She smiled at me and said, "Come back tomorrow. I've been waiting for you." His mother froze. The plate in her hand fell to the floor. "Did she smile?" she asked, barely breathing. Chuka nodded. His mother was worried throughout the night. She couldn't sleep. By morning, Chuka was gone. His bed was neatly made. His phone is still on the table. But his slippers were muddy with red clay, the kind only found at the top of Udene Hill. Her mother walked through the whole village looking for Chuka. No one saw him, and no one knows his whereabouts. Now, the villagers are afraid again. They called a meeting to discuss what was going on. They asked the strong men to look for Chuka. They searched everyone in the village, but Chuka was never found. The search for Chuka began again in the morning. His mother, barefoot and weeping, ran from compound to compound, begging for help. The villagers followed, reluctantly, some clutching their rosaries, others muttering quiet prayers. No one wanted to say it aloud, but every eye turned toward the thick mist rolling off Udene Hill. They didn't go near it, not yet. Instead, they searched the footpaths, the market square, even the schoolyard. But Chuka was nowhere. His bed was still smooth, his bag unpacked. His phone hadn't moved. The only sign he left behind were the slippers stained with red clay. That night, silence swallowed Isioma, not even cricket sang. Inside her home, Chuka's mother knelt down, whispering prayers with shaking lips. But every time the wind brushed the window, she flinched. As if something was listening. Then, at exactly 2:17 a.m., her phone lit up. It was a message from Chuka's number. "I saw her again, Mama. She was closer this time. She touched my face." She screamed. The villagers heard, but no one came out. The next morning, the message had vanished, no sign it was ever sent. But the mother swore it was real. She showed them her call log, the timestamp, the number. Some said it was a bad dream, others said it's a sign that Chuka is still alive. That night, one of the village boys, Ebuka, swore he heard something while walking home from the stream. He said he heard soft singing, like a lullaby, floating from the hill, but the voice, it wasn't human. He ran so fast, he tripped and broke his ankle. When his mother asked what the song said, he only whispered. She said, "He belongs to me now." 3 nights passed, no trace of Chuka, but strange things began happening. At 2 a.m. every night the village dogs barked non-stop. Children woke screaming, saying someone was knocking at the window from the inside. And then, on the 4th night, something chilling happened. A girl named Neoma was walking past the road that leads to the hill when she heard a scream coming from the woods. She said, it was Chuka's voice, but was it Chuka's voice? Let's find out. By the 5th day, fear turned to anger. The villagers gathered at the square, faces tight with fear, voices raised in accusation. She's the cause of this evil. One man shouted, "She took Chuka, just like she killed her husband." Cried another, "The dreams, the illness, it's all her doing. That woman is not human. She's a witch." All eyes turned to Anuli's compound. Her gate was shut, as always, her curtains drawn, no smoke from her chimney. No bleating of her goats. She must answer for what she's done, said the village elder, Chief Obolo, slamming his staff against the ground. The villagers, now a crowd, marched to her home, some with big stick, others with machetes. Though none truly wanted to go near, they stopped a few steps from the gate. No one wanted to be the first to knock, so they sent the youngest man forward, Onyedika, the butcher's son. He raised his hand and knocked. Nothing. He knocked again, still silence. Just as he was about to call out her name, the gate creaked open on its own, and there, standing in the doorway, was Anuli, her face pale, eyes sunken. "Yet come." She said nothing. The villagers stepped back. "Where is Chuka?" Chief Obolo demanded. "I don't know," she said softly. "Don't lie." Someone shouted, "You killed your husband, you make our young men sick, and now you've taken the boy." Her lips trembled. "I did not harm him." "Then why is the red clay on your doorstep?" A woman shrieked. "Why is it only the men dream of you?" Anuli looked at them, eyes wide, not with guilt, but something else. "Fear. I've been trying to protect you," she whispered. The villagers went quiet. "From what?" Chief Obolo asked, narrowing his eyes, but before she could speak, a strange gust of wind rushed through the compound. It carried the smell of burnt herbs. And something else, iron and ash. A thick branch had snapped off. Despite the calm skies, all the villagers scattered in fear. They ran as fast as they could, saying, "She's a witch, everyone run, run for your dear life." They all went back to their various homes. The village of Isioma was no longer at peace. The trees seemed to murmur at night. The dogs refused to bark. The children stopped playing by the stream. Even the birds avoided the skies above Udene Hill, but the real storm was within the people. After the incident at Anuli's compound, the village was divided. Half blamed Anuli, the other half began to wonder. What if she was telling the truth? In the palm wine hut, the men argued. This all began the day her husband disappeared. Okafor the hunter said, "She never cried for help, never asked questions. And now she says she's protecting us. From what? But how do you explain everything that happens in her house?" asked Nwok, the carpenter. And what about the dream Ebuka had? He said she belongs to something bigger. The dream started after Okeke vanished, shouted another. She knows what happened to him. She's hiding something. That woman is not just mourning, she's guilty. Meanwhile, the women gathered by the stream, whispering with worried brows, "Did you see her face?" Mama Ijuma said. She looked broken, not wicked. Broken can still be dangerous, another replied. Her eyes are always red, like she's been crying for 20 years. She has been crying for 20 years, someone else muttered, and they were right. Anuli sat alone in her darkened home, staring at a faded photograph of Okeke, her husband, her love. Every night she lit a candle for him. Every morning, she whispered the same question to the walls, "Are you still out there, my love?" She never stopped mourning. She still wore her wedding ring, she still left space at the dinner table, she still remembered that night, the night of the storm, the night he went outside after hearing a sound, a whisper that didn't belong to the wind. She had waited for him to return. He never did. Only his gold watch was found at the edge of the forest, still ticking, covered in red clay. And something else, a single black feather, sleek with rain, lying beside it. She never told anyone, they wouldn't understand, but now, as the fear in Isioma thickened, as torches burned longer and shadows stretched deeper, Anuli felt it again, the same presence she felt that night, the cold breath on her neck. The whisper in the trees. The thing that called itself a friend before it took everything. She shivered, and in the wind, she heard it again. He was only the first. The whispers in Isioma grew louder than the birdsong. Arguments broke out at the market. Children refused to sleep alone. Even Chief Obolo, who once mocked village superstitions, now kept a Bible under his pillow. All eyes still watched Anuli, but now with more uncertainty than before. Was she the predator, or the only one who understood what was coming? On the 7th day after Chuka's disappearance, a strange visitor returned to the village. Papa Yuba, bent with age, blind in one eye, and wrapped in a dusty red cloth that smelled of rain and charcoal. Papa Yuba was once the most feared diviner in all of Mano. He had not stepped foot in Isioma for 13 years. Some said he'd gone mad. Others believed he had seen things no man should live to speak of. No one expected to see him again, especially not leaning on a twisted walking stick, barefoot, and heading straight for Anuli's compound. Children scattered. Women gasped. Papa Yuba stopped at her gate, placed a hand on the rusted metal, and whispered, "She doesn't belong to the darkness, but she lives beneath its shadow." The crowd gathered behind him, watching. Wide-eyed, he turned slowly, lifting his one good eye to the crowd. "You people," he rasped. "You've forgotten what lives inside Udene Hill." Silence. "You think this started with Anuli? With Okeke? With Chuka?" He let out a broken laugh. "It began long before you were born. Before this village had a name." The chief stepped forward. "Old man, what do you know?" Papa Yuba's expression darkened. "I was there when the stone was cracked. I was there when they dug too deep and woke something that had been sleeping for centuries. I warned them. They didn't listen." "What stone?" Someone whispered, "The stone your people took to build Okeke's house. The one carved from Udene Hill. The stone that was never meant to be touched." He pointed his staff toward Anuli's home. When he brought that cursed rock into his home, he brought the Watcher with it. A spirit that whispers through time. It feeds on grief, secrets, and names. Murmurs broke out in the crowd. Papa Yuba continued, "Every 7 cycles, it takes one, and if left undisturbed, it takes more." Someone asked, "Then why only the men? Why only the young?" The seer's voice dropped to a whisper, "Because they are still pure, because they still hear it call." A heavy pause filled the air, then someone asked, "How do we stop it?" Papa Yuba looked up at the sky. The wind picked up. The fog around Udene Hill began to shift and move. Like something was breathing beneath it. "You don't stop it, He said, "You bargain with it, but you must send someone it remembers." His eyes slowly turned toward Anuli, and at that moment, she stepped out of her house, clutching the faded photograph of her husband. She had heard everything. The villagers parted as Anuli stepped forward, the photograph of her husband pressed tightly to her chest. Her black dress flapped in the wind. Her eyes, hollow but burning with something ancient, met Papa Yuba's. "I knew you'd return," she said quietly. "And you knew this day would come," he replied. The villagers watched, stunned. It was the first time anyone had seen the two speak. Some stepped back, unsettled. "You were there the night he vanished, weren't you?" Anuli asked. Papa Yuba didn't answer. He only looked toward Udene Hill, his expression grim. Anuli turned to the villagers. Her voice was soft, but every word cut through the silence. "I never hurt my husband. I never touched Chuka. But something followed us the day we built that house. It watched us through mirrors. It whispered from the corners of our rooms." Okeke thought it was just the wind. She looked down. He was wrong. The crowd was silent until someone shouted, "Then why didn't you tell us? Why did you stay quiet all these years?" Anuli's hands trembled. "Because no one would have believed me. And because I hoped it would forget me. That if I stayed hidden, if I mourned in silence, it would move on. But it didn't," Papa Yuba said darkly. "It remembers every name. Especially the ones called in grief." Suddenly, a scream echoed from the direction of the forest. Everyone turned. It came from the northern path, the one that winds around Udene Hill. It wasn't a woman's scream, it was a boy. The villagers rushed toward the path but stopped halfway. The wind grew thick, almost solid. Like walking into smoke, a whisper slithered through the fog. "You called his name too often, now. He belongs to us." And then, darkness, just for a moment, like the moon had blinked, and far away. Somewhere beneath the earth, Chuka opened his eyes. He was lying on something soft, not soil, not grass, something warm and pulsing, like the skin of a great beast. The air was thick, wet, and silent. He tried to move, but his limbs were heavy. He looked around, heart pounding. He wasn't alone. Shadows moved along the curved walls. Voices echoed, not around him, but inside him, and then he heard a name. Not his, a woman's, Anuli, and with that, he screamed, but above ground. No one heard him. The air was still heavy after Chuka's scream vanished into the fog. The villagers stood frozen, eyes darting between the hill and the woman they had feared for 20 years. Anuli walked toward the elders slowly, the photograph of her husband still clutched in her hand, her steps firm now, no longer hiding, no longer broken. She stopped before Chief Obolo, who looked away first. "You built your houses, planted your crops, held your festivals," she said coldly. "But you all forgot the warning written on the stones of Udene Hill. You covered it with clay and cement, and now, you pretend this is my doing." The elders shifted uneasily. "What warning?" one asked. Papa Yuba's voice came low and hoarse. "There was an old inscription, etched in the heart of the hill before men came. Speak no name where the earth breathes fire, for the fire we remember. And my husband," Anuli said, turning to the crowd, "was the first to speak a name that night. Mine. He called out for me, and the hill listened." Gasps echoed among the villagers. Chief Obolo finally found his voice. "You still didn't tell us. You watched this curse grow and said nothing. I watched my life die before my eyes and you did nothing." Anuli snapped. "You pitied me, then blamed me. But none of you searched for Okeke. None of you asked what was buried in the stone he brought into our home." She stepped closer. "I've lived in fear. But no more." Papa Yuba nodded slowly. "You're the only one it remembers. The only one it might still answer to." Anuli's voice trembled now, not with fear, but with something deeper. "Determination. I'm going back," she said. "To the place he vanished." "You can't go alone," someone whispered. She turned. I've been alone for 20 years. She returned to her home and came back minutes later, carrying 3 items: a rusty lantern, 1 socket case, a shovel, the same one she held the morning he disappeared, and a small gourd filled with something thick and black, Papa Yuba's binding mixture, used to seal the mouth of spirits if they tried to speak through you. The villagers cleared a path as she passed, but just as she reached the edge of the forest trail, she paused and looked back. "If I don't return by the 3rd moon," she said, "seal the hill. Burn the path. And never speak his name again." Then she disappeared into the mist, alone, toward the mouth of the hill, toward the place only the dead remember. The night Anuli walked into the mist, the village of Isioma held its breath. No one slept. Not even the newborns cried. They waited, crouched behind shuttered windows, lanterns flickering, ears tuned to every whisper in the wind, hoping or fearing she might return, but she didn't, not the next morning, not the day after. Not even after a week. 3 moons passed. During that time, something strange happened. The fog that clung to Udene Hill began to lift, the air felt lighter, no more strange whispers at night, no more boys falling ill, no more dreams of a woman in black. Chuka never returned, his phone remained untouched, his bed, still made, his slippers, still caked in red clay, and Anuli, too, vanished without a trace. Papa Yuba, the old seer, gathered the elders and villagers together. They stood at the base of Udene Hill, where the tree stood taller than usual, as though guarding something. Papa Yuba pressed his hand to the earth and murmured something no one understood. Then he looked at them and said, "Seal it. Seal the hill. Let the dead lie where they are remembered." And so they did. They built a thick stone wall across the only path leading to the hill, smeared it with ashes, carved no names. They left it untouched and unspoken of. Life in Isioma returned to normal. Farms grew, children laughed again, lovers danced beneath moonlight without fear, and year after year, no one went missing again. But every now and then, on cold nights when the wind shifts just right, an old woman sitting by the fire might whisper, "There's still a lantern burning inside the hill," and a name still being called. No one dares to answer, not anymore. The end. Life lesson: some stories are not meant to be solved, only remembered, and some sacrifices, though silent, guard us more than we will ever know.